For Camp Nanowrimo this year, I want to write a comic book, but I don't know how to draw and I've never written a comic script before. So let's talk about it. Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Stacks McDuck, and before I get into it, I want to give a special shout out to my first 3 subscribers. Hey Kyle, hey Sarah, hey Ebony. I always enjoy and appreciate your continued love and support. On the note of the background, I lost the one I actually purchased for the channel, so bear with me while we have this struggle incarnate up here, so don't mind it. On to the topic at hand. As I stated previously, I want to write a comic for Camp Nanowrimo, a graphic novel to be precise. But I don't know how to draw and I have no experience with writing a comics script. However, I've never really been an individual that allowed inexperience to deter me from doing what it is that I set out to do. In fact, I find it very interesting and fun to delve into a medium and really learn the ins and outs and the mechanics behind it so that I can become proficient as well as good at creating whatever medium I'm trying to create in. So with that in mind, that's why I'm going to do a comics clinic for my Camp Nanowrimo prep this year. Is a means of really immersing myself in the medium so I can become good at it. What my comics clinic entails is a lot of reading as well as a lot of workshopping and reverse engineering. I've never been a huge comic book collector, not from a lack of interest, just from a lack of funds. However, the collection I do have isn't extensive, but it is eclectic. So I just kind of want to go over the reference books I have and the comics that I'll be reading or trying to read before Camp Nanowrimo gets here. The first set of books I want to share are my reference books and how-to books, and the first one I have here is The Art of Comic Book Writing by Mark Nees. I'm uncultured, y'all, so forgive me. This book is my anchor, it's my foundation, building blocks for learning how to write comics. It's teaching me a lot about formatting and the relationship between writer and artist and what's important and what's not important. So this is very good. This is Big Daddy Foundations, and all the other reference books I have is pretty much supplemental to this. Next up on the docket is the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics by Dennis O'Neil. I featured this book in my first video because it has a pretty profound quotation on storytelling, and if you know me, storytelling is my be-all, end-all. I love it. Aside from that, I haven't gotten too deep into this one. Like I said, it's probably going to be more supplemental than anything, just looking at it through a flip through. The next book on the chopping block is Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. This one is very interesting. It's pretty much a dissertation on the art of comics, the history, and what's really interesting about it is it's done completely in comics form. Now, despite it being in comic book form, it's still very dense material. I would hate to see this in prose form as opposed to comics. I'm really hoping that this book will help me understand certain principles like sequential art and things of that nature. I highly recommend this book if you're interested in learning about comics. Give it a look. The last reference book I have is How to Draw Noir Comics by Sean Martin Bro, I believe that's how you say it. And I'm only taking a look at 2 of the chapters, chapter 4, visualizing the script, as well as chapter 5, page layout. It's really interesting. Reminds me a lot of those noir detective scenarios and whatnot, and I like the mood and atmosphere that it teaches, but it's mostly just for those 2 chapters I told you about. Now on to the comic books. Like I have some regular comic books and then I have like a couple of graphic novels. And a lot of these I'm going to give like in-depth reviews at a later date, but here we go. The first two comics I have are both Harley Quinns. We have Night and Day and Vengeance Unlimited. They're both by DC Comics and they are written by two separate teams. So it's going to be really interesting to compare and contrast the different style from the artist and the pacing and the writing. So I look forward to that. So definitely look out for these reviews. These probably be like one of the first ones because I love Harley Quinn. The next comic I have is another DC one. It is Gotham City Sirens, and I'm really excited about this one because Paul Dini's one of the writers, and he created the Queen Harley. So I'm so stoked to read this, and the first few pages of this is so captivating, as well as like your eyes are just, they're guided to each page, like you're flipping and flipping to see what's happening next, and I really enjoy this. Maybe I have poor taste, I don't know, I don't care, but I love this comic. In addition, in the beginning of this comic, Catwoman is referencing previous events, and I really want to know what arc precedes this so I can read all about that. I think it might be Hush, but I'm not sure. Anybody who's like a comic head, please let me know because I definitely want to get into that. The next comic I have is from DC Black Label, and it is Batman White Knight. Now, I've heard a lot of controversy over this one when this was like first announced, and it was because like it was supposed to be like SJW or whatever, because the Joker is supposedly the hero in this one and Batman's the villain. And I am all for subversion, so give it to me, please. I didn't think to pick up the comic, all that hullabaloo at first, but then I checked out Just Some Guy's channel and he had resounding praise for this. So I'm super excited to see how this unfolds. Like, you have no idea. My next set of comics come from Image Comics, and the first one here is Snot Girl, and it's by Brian Lee O'Malley. You may have heard of him with Scott Pilgrim and whatnot. This is a very interesting comic. Like, how do I describe it? It's so vapid that it's deep.
Sometimes your shallowness is so thorough, it's almost like depth.
It's not the writing that's vapid. The writing is very good, but it's just the characterizations. These people are so shallow and so frivolous, and there's a certain despair that goes along with that vapidness. Like, a lot of the characters aren't likable. You have to read it. I definitely recommend this one. The next comic I have is Saga. I believe this is volume 4, and this is by Brian K. Vaughan. I bought this some years ago, and it was pretty much like my friend Ebony. She recommended it to me. I think she like read some of her boyfriends or whatever, and the visuals are interesting and I like the art style, but I came in at volume 4, so I don't know what the devil's going on, so I'm really confused, but for the sake of learning, I'm gonna get through this one and maybe get the first 3 volumes so I can get caught up. Now on to the graphic novels, and the first one is The Watchman by Alan Moore. One of my favorite books. I love Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach, so I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, I will definitely be glad to read this with a more critical or astute eye. I've read this several times over in enjoyment, but it's going to be interesting to read this as a clinical view. The next graphic novel I have is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This is a very, very heavy book. It's pretty much detailing Art's father's, Vladik's experience during the Holocaust is definitely a testament of the strength of the human spirit and willingness to survive, and also showcase the legacy that tragedy left behind. And I can't even really categorize it as a tragedy. It's an atrocity. Um, Again, it's heavy, and I think it's very interesting literary wise. Like a lot of the choices that Art made in his illustrations, particularly depicting, the Jews as mice and the Nazis as cats. It was a very interesting story. Uh, if you're up to the read, I would recommend it definitely. Um, but if not, there's that one. But it is a good book. And I saved the behemoths for last, and that is ElfQuest. ElfQuest is written by Wendy and Richard Penny, and it's one of my favorite books. It's really cool. Like, it's a sprawling epic about like elves who ride wolves, and there's a lot of metaphysical stuff in here. If you're like somebody who's into gyms, there's like stuff like that in there too. Um, but yes, I won't be able to finish it before NaNoWriMo, I'm sure. I mean, maybe I will, but I doubt it. These two are thickens, let's just say. But I definitely feel as though I can learn quite a bit from Wendy's illustrations and writing. So yeah, there's that one. I definitely suggest this one if you're into like elves and adventure and stuff like that. So that's it for my collection, what I'm going to be going through and studying during my comics clinic. With all this reading and deconstruction, you may be wondering, Stacks, with all this going on, when will you ever have time to outline your story? Well, never you worry, because my story has been primed and ready since 2017. Procrastination! Save the day again. Eventually. This video is kind of like an introduction to my creative process, like where I start. I start with research and really delving into the medium that I'm trying to create. Through my reverse engineering process bit by bit, and hopefully if you're interested, feel free to join me. Well, that's it for my video today. I hope you enjoyed. If so, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let me know if you even like comic books. If so, which ones do you like? What's some of your favorites? And if you don't like them, what do you prefer? Do you just like novels or novels? So just let me know in the comments down below. Okay, see you. Bye.